So thank you everyone for joining us today. I am Cousin. I'm one of the assistant creators at Parasite. And today we're going to have a wonderful studio visit with a Hong Kong artist now residing in Canada, Chloë Cheuk. And this again is this series of studio visits. It's a collaboration with the Consulate General of Canada in Hong Kong and Macau. And without further ado, I think it will be nice if Chloë, you may introduce yourself a little bit and perhaps kind of a background story of how you decide to move to Canada and study there.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Hong Kong. I studied in City University of Hong Kong. And then years later, I got accepted into Concordia University in Montreal. That was, I noticed that school is because during my exhibition period, like I went to Europe and stuff like that, and there are some media art festivals, and I met a lot of artists that's coming from Montreal. And then that's how I noticed this place. I never know Canada has a place that is French speaking until until I met those artists. And then I was looking for graduate program. And then I wanted to study something more about fine art because I love art in general, like media art or traditional kinds of art. And I felt I was missing the traditional part. So I applied to school and got accepted, and then I start the school there. The program was very long. I think it's the longest master degree in the world. It's usually take 1 year or 2 years, but this one is 3 years. And then I took a year off, so I took 4 years to finish my master. After that, I just decided maybe because the environment there is so nice, and the cost of living is kind of cheaper compared to Hong Kong. And I see there's a lot of support to the artists there. So I decided to stay there. So since I think I have been in Canada for six or 7 years. Yeah,
I remember a few weeks ago you told me that Montreal is somehow quite different from other Canadian cities like Vancouver and Toronto in terms of maybe their connection with the international art scene, or also their support and artists. So would you mind sharing a little bit of that to us as well? It will be quite interesting to see the difference.
Yeah. So Montreal is a city, but it's inside a province called Quebec. And then Quebec is a French-speaking place. And they have a really strong connection with Europe because they speak French, especially in France. And because they are, I would say, a lot of media artists based in Montreal, and they have like a lot of festivals, electronic music or media art festivals there. And they have, we call SAT, which is a dome projection place there. They have a lot of programs there. So it's quite vibrant, this field. So they have really strong connection with Europe compared to other parts of Canada. I mean, the art scene. I would say the rest of the art scene in Canada, they're more close to America. So I see many artists that is born in, for example, Ontario. Ontario is the province of Toronto, something like that, or Vancouver. their career development is more lean onto America, probably New York or UK. So there are a few artists that quite, I would say, more noticeable right now. Also have connection with Hong Kong. Their development is in New York and also UK. But in Montreal, they less like lean onto that. They're more like lean onto Europe because of the language and because of the types of the arts. Yeah, so it's quite different. But I wasn't really knowledgeable about that until I live in Canada, and I kind of like I learned through living and connect with other people. But I was just being like a observant because I'm not like a permanent resident, so there are many benefits or program it's quite excluded, so I'm not eligible to join until I got my status. So I'm working on that, but it's quite interesting to see the art scene compared to Hong Kong. Like, yeah.
I know today you prepared kind of like a presentation deck with some of the existing works and also one of the newest works you're currently showing in Tycoon in Hong Kong. Maybe we can go through a little bit of these works one by one and so it'll be interesting to see your development and kind of the growth of your creative process.
So I start with the work I produced since I moved to Canada because I major in sculpture at that time, and I have been thinking about, and my background is time-based medium such as video, kinetic work. So when I go back to a traditional medium kind, I was thinking about what's the relationship between sculpture and also time-based medium. So I kind of so this since we last met is the title of the work. It's I would say it's like the first combination of my realization or it's like the outcome of me thinking about how I can blend both medium together. So I use the crystal ball as like different kinds of reflection of the environment and then combine them into a sculpture. But at the same time, it is also interactive. So that's kind of like my exploration between time-based medium and also sculpture. So this work you can like move and also you can touch, and the ball in the middle you can pull back and forward, so it will affect the image inside the crystal ball. So even though it is an unplugged work, I kind of want it to be very dynamic so people can explore it in different angles. So I feel this is I'm quite satisfied with the result. And that's kind of, yeah, I never thought about I can make a sculpture that can be very like it can transform with the light and stuff like that. So I think the medium itself, the crystal, already embed a lot of like different theories of science. So it get more aligned with time-based medium. And wait, let me see. Okay. And then this one is more conceptual work that I it's also one of the work showing in Tycoon actually. And this work is called Dependence. And it's one of the work that I do during the master degree. It's about how it's more about the object itself. The concept is how the light can pass through into another light bulb that is not unplugged. So it's like a metaphor of a relationship that one has to depend on the other. I guess like maybe some people have experienced if you are not full or if you have void and then you are in a relationship and you kind of have to depend on others to make yourself happy, something like that, like give you more energy and alive. So the light itself symbolize energy, and how when the light bulb has no electricity, we think it doesn't have the functionality itself already. So, but I kind of use another.
How did you actually make this? Does the light bulb that is unplugged actually was turned on by the touch, or how? What's the mechanism of it when you make it work?
Oh, so the light bulb doesn't have any cables or electricity attached. The right one you can see it has the plug, so it like signify. Excuse me. So it signify the energy there. Excuse me.
That's fine, don't worry.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So it's so technically the left one was not connected with electricity, so it's kind of relying on the other person to be illuminated and to feel like a warmth of a heat. So it's like a kind of like an interesting parallel reading of human relationships. So this work was in when was it made? Like 20s
I think it's
or
2016.
Okay. So it's quite interesting that if this work is in Tycoon, so you in your show, in the group show, you include some of the older works, but also commission the new one for the show, isn't it? Okay.
So the curator picked this work, Aaron picked this work because it's during the pandemic. I guess it's because of this connection with people. So even though this work originally coming from just like a relationship, but it can also apply to different kinds of relationship. Yeah. So this work is the simplest work because of the concept, but at the same time because it utilized the material of the light bulb, and so people understand easily what's energy, what the work had is plug or unplug, or I hope people would easily understand what it means by the title called Dependence.
So it seems like even with the previous work that was shown in Asia Society, I think you really want to go beyond the traditional idea of a sculpture and really introduce more interactive attributes, or a new kind of including also some sort of new medium into sculptures in order to further develop your ideas and practices. So because I want to actually get back to the work that was shown in Asia Society, I think one of the most interesting part is it's not only like a traditional telescope. It's
Mm.
because when you see the urban landscape in Admiralty Central, which it symbolizes pretty much the power axis of Hong Kong, but the image in the glass ball was actually inverted. Am I correct? So it's a very sentimental work for me because it felt like and at the same time you can adjust the distance of how close and how far you see of the urban landscape. And I feel like no matter how close you want to see the city or how far you want to look at it, the outcome is still inverted. And I think in terms of the meaning, I think a lot of Hong Kongers, no matter we're still in Hong Kong or we're in diaspora, we feel sentimental about the development of Hong Kong, and we do feel like maybe especially when we see like that's Admiralty and Central, it represents so much of Hong Kong's financial and economic development, and by seeing the image in an inverted manner, I think it tells a lot of how young artists see Hong Kong as well. So
I try to use the ball as like a small world, like a small globe, because I believe that we have different perspective to see the world. Excuse me. So that's why I also use the crystal ball that can reflect different kinds of, like it's inverted, but when there's 3 inside, you will see it's going back again, like straight up again. So yeah, so it's not only inverted.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you see through the biggest one, you will see that's one upside down and then not upside down. So this is kind of like we are in a illusion, or like how to say, like it's like not everything in the world is so straight up. Sometimes it can be inverted in a sense that not just about the environment, but like the mental state or
so like, since now you told me that it's not everything is inverted, I think it also allows us to rethink what like our own perception of certain things, because we usually have a very fixed image, but your work in this sense kind of really distort and really mess things up in your mind to kind of influence how the audience to see things in a very distorted manner. So it's not only inverted, it just really becomes messy, and it forces the audience to rethink what they're looking at and the reality of it. So besides this work and the light bulb one, I think you also have a little bit more works.
Yeah, so this work, so I had a solo exhibition right before the lockdown in Montreal. So I had this show, and then the next day is the lockdown. And the title of the exhibition is called Deep Cleansing. It kind of has a political purpose, like because of that reflecting the situation in Hong Kong at that time. And it was the show that after I finished my master degree, like 1 year after I finished my master degree. So I didn't really have much support and resources. So I just feel I wanted to going back to more traditional way because of the resources, and also yeah, I think it will be quite fun to build just the sculpture without thinking too much about the medium itself. So what you're now seeing is called Cityscape, which made of concrete and also handmade soap.
Mm.
Yeah, I use soap mainly it's because of the symbol, like the metaphor of cleanse. Like every day we need to clean ourselves, and also I got a lot of thoughts about in the probably like in the food industries, like in the hospitality. When we serve people, we can't they care about the hygiene and stuff. And then now that it also happened during the pandemic, like it's like how hygiene in a political sense and also in our everyday like real hygiene or health matter, it really have a significant meaning. And also yeah, so the trigger is coming from the political situation from Hong Kong, and also thinking about what's caused a memory loss, like how history can be redefined by some people, and or like change how we see the history before. So there's a lot of edit or remembering and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into really deep, but I just felt using soap has a very significant meaning, and also like many different layers. So I use soap and also concrete is because concrete is kind of like a construction of a city or like a urban places. So the work title is called Cityscape. So I play with the foam, and also it's like you can move, like every time it can be in different form. Yeah, so this work is have a different versions and like different dimensions, and then the one that you see out on the left is there's a water pump, and it keep on having the water underneath to like kind of washing the soap, so it will get like smaller, and it's like chaos in the exhibition place. That's because of foam and stuff like that. Yeah, so I found this is quite for me it has a I kind of enjoy the process a lot because I feel that it's very different from my work I did before, because it's more about the making. Like my previous two works is about the concept itself and also the design, and how the concept can be shown by the design and also the structure. But this one is more loose, and I at that time I feel that I wanted to experience how a sculptor or like a traditional forms, how those artists can enjoy the process. So I just set a goal, and I just keep making the mold, and then like pulling the soap mixture together. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that process a lot. Oh, and then this also another ceramic pieces. It's helmets, and I think this is like one of the objects that always shown during the in Hong Kong at that time. And then I used porcelain to make the mold and cast it because it has a really, the material itself is quite hard, but also it's quite fragile. So I feel that this material really aligned with the meaning of the, like what I wanted to tell about helmets in like when it fades to a more bigger power, stronger power, it becomes really fragile. It's not as protective as what we think. So the placement itself is also like a memorial kind, because some kind of life lost during that situation. So yeah, so that show is more because I have been always in Montreal. I wasn't in Hong Kong. I only can witness what's happening over there through the internet. So the whole process of doing this exhibition is kind of like me, how to say, like not worship, but it's like a ceremony for me and like a compensation for me to about my absence in this situation. Yeah. Yeah, so this is the overall exhibition view, and also the other side. Yeah, so you see that video is I made it long time ago. Also, it's during the protest, sorry, in Hong Kong. So I just try to combine those work together. Yeah, and then I think I think I missed. Oh yeah, here. So yeah, so this is the new work from Taiku. It's called Stress Test. Because of the pandemic, the whole planning of the exhibition, has been prolonged and delayed for a year, more than a year. So the ideas keep changing and the curatorial statements keep changing. And then eventually I made this piece because it's the inspiration is coming from the freedom of press in Hong Kong were kind of limited right now. And there are several press or media has to close down because of that. And I think the exhibition is more it's called Gym, Emu Gym. It's kind of reflects the vulnerability of the people and the mind, the situation during the pandemic also. So this work called Stress Test is because of the I use a textile, the elastic textile, with the help of kinetic element together. So it pull and contrast. The form itself changed a lot, but like it changed a lot more. Like how is it's not as ideal as I wanted before, but because of the construction limitation, it becomes like this. It's supposed like to be, I wanted it to be just one whole piece of cloth together. Yeah, but it's too like physically it's really hard to achieve. technically it's really hard to achieve. So so eventually it becomes this form. But the form itself, I try to take a reference from the press production, where when you produce a newspaper, you see a line of production that goes all around when they print the ink on the paper, and then they go really fast and then become a newspaper and stuff like that. So instead of using the paper, I use the cloth that is elastic because I want to stretch the text and then kind of a little bit distorted. And then I brought some text onto the textile, and then there are a whole bunch of terms coming from the social media or WhatsApp, and it's kind of like information lost, or how we interpret information differently on the internet. Because we have a lot of fake news and stuff like that, and I also just want to associate with communications, how we got misinterpreted or misunderstood other people. And how, for example, you see there's a word block or follow and follow. This is how I feel it's quite it totally simplified the complication of relationship with other people as well. How can you when you turn one button and then the whole dynamic of the relationship just changed.
I think it's also related to how when people do not have the same stance or the same perception of seeing things, one of the easiest way to unsee those, or not letting those people in your life, is to block them or unfollow them on social media. It seems like just with a click of a button, then all the arguments or all the perspective that is different from yours will be gone. And of course, if in terms of information war, it's now Facebook and Instagram, it's such a game of algorithm. Technically, the more things you search more frequently, the more you only see those related content. So somehow from your search results, you also begin to only see very singular uniformed information. And so I saw even in one of those elastic textile, you mentioned your search did not match any description or so I can't really see the word, but I really find it very ironic, because that search may not be unsearchable. Maybe it's just because your algorithm doesn't match those results. So I think this is a very interesting presentation of the work, despite maybe it's not the perfect manner that you want to showcase. I actually want to learn a little bit more of the motion and mechanics, because you told me that it's basically the free motors, the stretching the textile nonstop. So so I think in terms of the visuals, that means it's not only the textiles are pulling and compressing, that the text printed on these textiles are also kind of changing shape, isn't it?
Yeah, supposedly, but during the process, that's it's hard to very unfortunately, that's the effects that I want to achieve. However, it's kind of technically, I'm still looking figuring how it words probably, because when I do the embroidery, it's kind of really facade on the cloth itself. So even like pull it's hard to really stretch, unfortunately. Like the idea itself is about that. Um yeah, that's it takes more time to do the research on to finding the right material, and also the printing or like other methods that I can really stretch it. Because during the process I I met a lot of obstacles. How I can use the stretch cloth, but at the same time with the correct printing method. That's not many companies or anything that can do that on this type of cloth. So it kind of like a concept idea. Yeah, but this is like so far I can achieve that, honestly.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but the idea of like stretching is about how like the tension itself when all this like communication or your judgment of tapping that button
Mm.
would cause emotions.
Mm.
uh like for sure I feel like even though the gesture itself is so cold, um it feels like you don't care anymore, or like there's no other way you can understand the other person's feeling, or um yeah, so that
Mm.
creates a wall in between.
Yeah, I
um
really like that interpretation because I think the tension, I think it represents a lot of how we engage in conversations in recent times. I think it's
yeah,
we don't really have reasoning. I think once we think the other person does not have the same stance as you, we will just jump into argument mode and we
yeah,
stretch
yeah,
that relationship into a very tense state as what you presented. And
yeah,
um but at the same time, I also think if we look at the work less pessimistic, I think it also, reveals how relationship should be about tenacity. So it's a combination of strength, but also softness and flexibility.
mhm,
Because um, although the content may be more a critique of how we approach conversation in this highly political times, but at the same time, because the fabric was stretched nonstop and pretty much
mhm,
a lot of times, but it's still in one piece, right? It's intact. So it
mhm,
also
mhm,
shows how relationship can be more malleable and also has the strength and endurance to go through very
mhm,
difficult times in communication.
mhm,
So I think
yeah,
for me, there is a certain beauty in the pain. So I don't
mhm,
necessarily see it as like a completely like a more pessimistic view of what's going on in our society. So I think
mhm,
that's a really nice way to display, and like although it may not visually may not be, the words are not stretched, but
uh-huh,
I feel like I think if since Tycoon and museums are able to open very soon to public, I think if we ever have a chance in Hong Kong to see the work, I think it will be have a more stronger impact than just looking at the photo installation view right now. So
yeah.
I really like the work.
Thank you. um Yeah, I really agree about what you said about the endurance and stamina. And I think that's a very precious quality that Hong Kong people have.
Mm,
That's why I keep like the work keep stretching and bounce back instead of like deteriorate the
mm,
whole cloth. That's also, yeah, you see you can see the other side of the meaning of this work. Like you remind me, I didn't remember. I did have this. That's why, like, even though there's a lot of pessimistic thoughts inside, but as I said, like, the people in Hong Kong in general, they're quite have really high stamina. So the kind of like not giving up or trying to endure the tough situation. I hope it can be revealed from this work.
I think so. So because this is technically the last session for Canadian artist studio visit, I do want to take this chance to allow all of us to have a deeper understanding of how Canadian art scene works. I think Canada has never really been a spotlight of the international art scene, despite very close to America and certain like regions like Quebec, they have connections with France and Europe, but it seems like it's still kind of like an underdog. So perhaps it'll be nice if you can give us some more insights of what's the reality of Canadian art scene and what kind of like talents we can find and perhaps the support that artists can receive.
Interestingly, I noticed that the model of Hong Kong art funding, they took advice. I mean, the Hong Kong Art Development Council, they did try to get a model or advice from the Canada Art Council. But so this is another piece that I showed in Montreal before. So here I just copy it from their internet, from their website, from Canada Art Council. So we noticed that in Canada we have provinces and federal level. So artists can apply grants in their province level and also federal level. So actually they can get similar grant from two departments, government departments. And they keep on, I mean, the experts, or they keep on reviewing what kind of the types of funding that they can create. And then we can see like there's like 1, 2, 6 types of grounds that artists can apply. What I noticed from other artists is like some of the grounds you don't really need to have a deliverable. Like the deliverable doesn't have to be exhibitions. You can use the funding to, for example, the first one, explore and create. It's just for you to develop something probably in your studio or just the art process. You just need to write the proposal and then mention it how it can help your art development and your research. So they give a lot of emphasis on create and research instead of only just to deliver exhibitions. So if you need to apply for exhibition, there's another grounds that you can get assistance. So there's like equipment, or if you want to pay for labor costs. And in Canada, we have a website that have all the different kinds of rates of the cultural labors. So for example, if you are inside a solo exhibition, how much artist fee you will get. If you are in the group exhibition, how much artist fee you get. If you are an assistant, how much you will get. And everything is really transparent. And then recently there's because in Canada there are many other art spaces. One of the art spaces, they just like initiate a survey about the salary of the art practitioners. So and then everyone just join like there's a Google Sheet. Many people just fill in the information. For example, they work in a museum, how much salary they get. So I guess, for example, in Hong Kong, maybe you guys will be interested to know or curious to know what's how much you got paid, or how is your salary justifiable, or what kind of level of your salary in this culture industry. So we have a lot of like people in Canada are quite sensitive on that. And also I found that one interesting thing is when you see the fifth category, arts across Canada, they do have a grant that for artists to show their exhibition all around Canada. So you can already like create an exhibition already, and then you can have a tour in different places in Canada. So I think this is something really cool. I've never noticed this. We can do that in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is too small, but imagine like in China, if you have a ground that you can exhibit in this province, that province, Beijing or Shanghai or Hong Kong, that would be cool. So they have many different ideas about how it's more the dynamic, because I found in Hong Kong the arts ground is kind of I don't find have much diversity. Yes. So it's either you get grant for a big project. It has to be projects, but apart from projects, what else you guys can support them? They need, for example, they need a time to do research. That's quite important because it's quite stressful every time you need to deliver something for an exhibition and you don't have time to explore the idea and see or experiment the material itself, or even research like in contextualized aspects. It's I feel that it's not only about a piece of art anymore. When we stand in the contemporary art, like the role of the artist has to also reveal what that work can stand in a contemporary context. It's some kind of like that. Maybe it's like getting more the role and the duties of the artist can be a little bit overlap with curator sometimes a little bit. But here in Canada, I think they not just focus on the art itself, but also about the humanity, like what the art itself can symbolize or be meaningful or push the humanity area or the research moving forward. So this is a little bit different from Hong Kong, and I feel that they have a more broader, like more long-term goal, like the long-term idea what I can go. They have more research about maybe after 10 years later, what kind of funding do we need so as to support a certain type of development for the humanity aspects in Canada. So there are many artists here would study PhD, and they have grants that collaborate between arts and humanities. So some people are quite interdisciplinary, can also apply, not just artists, but those who are interested in anthropology or like for example colonialism, like those kind of topics are also quite relevant to some art pieces here. But maybe in Hong Kong, we are more leaning on to the art market. And then when we talk about the experiments of art, we kind of not knowing what are we talking about. Like of course, like we are going to experiment the art in terms of the art material. But it feels like we in Hong Kong, the absent, like what can Hong Kong Art Development Council can do more is like putting a more long-term direction, maybe. Like it feels like artists are just artists, but maybe there's something more that can contribute to the society.
Maybe to imagine the role of an artist rather than just being someone who makes art. Maybe we can reimagine artists can be a researcher, sometimes can also be a curator in some sort. I think to have a better, like to envision what arts can like contribute to society in a longer duration, so like in more like 5 years or 10 years term rather than project based, which you will most likely finish in a year. So I think we need both, but we in Hong Kong, I think we kind of lack the long-term ones. That's really true.
So I feel it's not like I don't want to like fixate on like the government has to have a direction and then people have to follow that, but I mean like more imagination about different kinds of role, and then how can they collaborate together, like how can they help each other, or like be more do something very dynamic, instead of just art is like just a project and after that that's nothing, that's like no, what's the next step, like that's I don't know what what can be done. And then we if there are more different kinds of fundings based on their survey or based on their research or based on their long-term focus, then I don't know, maybe this is something that Hong Kong can do more, so to help the cultural industry become a little bit not just like commercial wise, because now that I feel like more the commercial art market is quite, I would say, quite mature. We have a lot of opportunities to maybe sell work or display work. That's quite important also, but at the same time, feels like there's an absence of how we can contribute, not just in terms of money, but like some kind of I would say like it's like how we can do it without just only thinking about monetary terms.
I think we are very focused on cultural consumption, but not cultural production.
Oh yeah.
Because, you know, like art, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love art fairs, I love commercial galleries and art market and auction houses, but I think these are more on the consumption side. I think what it would be nice if Hong Kong, perhaps if we are able to learn from Canada, it's to focus on cultural production, because production is not just to have a exhibition project or just producing an artwork, but production, I think it also connects with what Canada's, you know, funding has to go, you know, related to, which is how arts or culture or artists can be a drive in society to produce not a product but to produce values or important ethical concerns or researches that will benefit
Right.
country in a whole to have a better future and a better sustainability for future generations. I think this kind of
Conversation or
conversation or long-term vision, I think is really beneficial for a place, for the development of culture in a certain place or a certain city. I think that's what missing in Hong Kong at this moment. So it's really nice to know that, like, at least in Canada we can I think it's a great chance for people in Hong Kong or developers and policy makers in Hong Kong to kind of have a chance to learn foreign policies, and hopefully we kind of revamp and improve our support in terms of cultural production. So it's nice to have a chance to learn about how Canada works in terms of that. So thank you so much, Chloe. And thank you for still able to speak despite you're not fully well yet. But I think it's a nice, it's a really great presentation, like, of your older works and the newest works in Tycoon. And I think everyone should give it a go and visit the show before it closes very soon. But at the same time, great insights from your end to learn about the fundings in Canada, and perhaps to allow us to have a better reflection of how we can improve and reimagine cultural industry in Hong Kong. So so I thank you again for your time. It's very early morning for you. And I hope, in the future, if you're able to fly in Hong Kong, definitely I hope when you're able to visit, Hong Kong will be able to have to do a little bit more cultural production in some way, and hopefully we'll have some exhibitions here as well. So again, thank you for your time, and thank you for everyone for joining for today's studio visit. So have a good morning to you, Chloe, and have a good evening for us in Hong Kong. So
thank you, Cousin. Thank you, Parasite. Thank you, people who came by.
So thank you, and have a nice day.
You
Bye
too.
bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.